What is going out the door? Part 2. 1 minute. I'm worried about antagonizing her by emptying out the joint accounts, being fair and nice with the asset agreement, being reasonable with the custody agreement out of fear that this will ruin any chance of reconciliation if I do. Say the wrong thing. Then the next minute, I remember what she said and done, and I want to steamroll her on all this as a duck you since she's made it clear there will be no reconciliation. Then I'm like, well, she says this now, but what about 2 months from now and I've played my cards wrong and really shut that door? We're in the same house still because no one's leaving until the custody agreement is done, so I have to swing between anger and calm while no one's looking. All I want to do is rehash the pros and cons of our relationship and point out all the strong points and the benefits to the kids so she can see what a mistake this is, but I keep my mouth shut instead and do the 180. I have to keep a poker face on for the kids as they notice things are missing from our house that she's taken to the rental, like the ducking dog food container, and say, oh, I don't know where that went. We'll have to look for it. I have to eat dinner with someone who has said, I believe you were under the impression that you and the kids were a package deal. After the kids were born, I thought I had made my bed and now had to lie in it. And the last year, every time we had fun, I cringed, and still knowing I would take her back in a heartbeat if she changed her mind. But then on the plane while traveling today, I got to thinking about paying for the kids' college and how I had worked up a plan to pay off her remaining $123,000 law school student loan in 10 years by the time the boys were in high school, and then realized she'll never be able to pull that off without me and will stiff me with the cost of this. So again, I'm like, I'm going to nail her to the wall on the assets. Duck her. Yes, I'm all over the place. However, I guess the good news is I haven't discussed any of this with her at all, especially the last week where I have maybe talked with her for a total of 10 minutes. I've gone as dark as possible in the situation currently as I've been trying to move to the center of the drama triangle. She's playing house to the end. 2 days before the bomb dropped, she designed and finished a paver walkway in the backyard. I think it comes from her having a people-pleasing personality. She doesn't want anyone to hate her. She was more upset by family excommunicating her for this than anything I said. So now they think I'm Satan. I'm still the same person I've always been. She's always been very good at projects, responsible about thank you cards, invitations. But at some point, I'd think a person would draw the line. I would not do anything detrimental to the kids, and neither would she. But apparently there is 2 parts to this custody agreement. One regarding residential custody and then a schedule that can be changed. I'm agreeing to 50-50 on the schedule because with my travel schedule that's what we've always been doing for the most part. However, on the residential custody conditions, I am playing hardball on that with final decision-making authority, etc. If we include a standard forfeiture of time if one of us is unavailable. I can say 50-50, but with her mandatory 2 weeks in California for work 4 times a year, I can work it out so it's effectively 63% for me, 37% for her. If she'd gotten licensed for the bar in this state, she could get a job here, but she delayed and delayed. And yes, I was on her about this, but now you see why. And there's no way she'll be able to pull that off now, being a single parent of 2 kids, so she's stuck with her current situation. These are the things I have to consider, and my mood isn't as amicable as it was at the beginning. Met with therapist this morning. On the plus side, she said I looked much better and more pulled together. Last month, Roko would have looked more pulled together than me. She said I am expressing a lot of anger and leaning toward vindictiveness. She cautioned that vindictiveness could backfire and would not achieve the results I want. I know I will need to heed this advice. She said I am using anger as a way to reflect the hurt I've experienced. Anger is easier for me to process and move forward with than the hurt and pain of the absolute rejection that has hit directly to my deepest insecurities. I will need to work on this. She asked, what do I want? What I want is to roll back the clock, make this all go away, and have an intact family again. Unfortunately, the reality is I will need to determine what I want moving forward, because as of now I do not know. I need to focus on the here and now. I need to pick up my kids from school. I need to take care of them this afternoon and evening. I need to work on this separation, custody agreement. I can't worry now about 10 years from now. I can't worry about dating. I can't worry about her dating, etc. I can deal with those issues when the time comes. I'm back from my trip, so I will see how this evening goes. An update: we had a family therapist appointment Friday that was originally scheduled for telling the kids this weekend, but since there's been no resolution, it turned into a general discussion. STBXW accused me of being childish and uncommunicative as I do not return texts, calls, let her know my schedule or whereabouts, do not speak to her while at home, do not look at her while at home, decorated the house for Christmas without her, didn't put up her stocking, kept the boys too long over Thanksgiving, been making it impossible for her to manage her work schedule, etc. I know he hates me now, but we really have to communicate through this. Recall I have been doing the 180 consistently for a few weeks. I replied that she has made choices and consequently I am no longer here to be accountable to her or to accommodate her work schedule. I reminded her any text regarding the kids I reply to immediately. Also, I let her know I am available to discussion at home, but she has not initiated any. Therapist asked her if she really thought I would be up for sitting around chatting at night, and she said I would if he would. Therapist asked about the custody agreement, and STBXW indicated her attorney had been non-responsive on the draft and she had still not returned the waiver to mine. Therapist was concerned about the tension between us for the kids and asked if we could do the separation before Christmas if we were unable to keep it cordial at home. We both assured her that in front of the kids we were fine. I reiterated, however, that STBXW was free to leave whenever, but the kids were not leaving the house until an agreement was signed. STBXW said I was doing this so it was clear that she was the bad guy and the one who left, and I said yes. I also said that there is no way this agreement will be done in December and probably not January either. Therapist recommended just working out a schedule and getting through the holidays, which we both agreed we could do. At the end there was a few minutes left and STBXW asks if she could speak with therapist alone. I replied, no, I'm not okay with that. She can book her own appointment and pay for it if she wants to talk about me behind my back. This prompted her to storm out of the office, slamming the door. Typing this, it seems pretty calm, but there was a lot of tension and heated words in the session. I know I was beyond angry, and I think she's extremely frustrated that she's lost control of me and I'm not playing this the way she envisioned. Guys, is this what the 180 is supposed to do? Is it productive? Later that night, I took the kids to dinner with my mother and STBXW texts if she needed to pick up dinner. I let her know I was with my mom and kids and she texts she'll be coming over to join us. This took major courage as she has not seen my parents since this started and knows how they feel about her at this time. She did join us and we also went for ice cream afterwards. My mom says to me this is the craziest thing I've seen. Saturday and Sunday, we split the time with the kids between birthday parties, Christmas lights at the zoo, church, and service project caroling at a retirement center with their scouting troop, which I'm a co-leader. STBXW has really now gone out of the way to speak with me, let her know her plans and schedule, and be pleasant. She had an IC session after our family session, so I'm sure this was how it was discussed to proceed. I will be civil but will not initiate any more than I have to, as I do not want to get sucked in by this. Moving forward, STBXW did sign the waiver and sent to my attorney, so I will be doing some info gathering while waiting for the draft, and then we'll schedule an appointment probably for the week after next, as I will be out of town for work next week. I may be in the running for longest in-house separation by the end of this. She said I don't want it to be like this between us. I know you are hurt and angry and hopefully you'll move past it. I was going to write a letter to you about how you may be misconstruing some of things I've said about our relationship and how you are thinking I may have had some other intent in mind. I said okay, I don't want to talk about this now. We did talk about how my mother is coming to a school event tomorrow and STBXW said she would come also. I told her for planning purposes, we will need to re-examine our wills as my parents are removing our kids from the inheritance in case my parents and me die in the next 25 years. The money will go to an administrator that will dispense funds for college, but the kids will not receive the bulk until they turn 30. Reason is that STBXW cannot access the money. This move just cut her off to a few million and she looked distressed but didn't say anything. We went on about the December schedule, Christmas gifts, this week's plans with the kids, and what she's making for dinner over at this house at 6 p.m. It is just surreal to me that she's making this little life 15 yards away. I was calm this afternoon and non-confrontational, but back to the 180 again. Last night, we had a great dinner, kids talking about the Christmas caroling at the senior center last night. She baked cookies, I did dishes. We then had to come up with what to do for the kindergarten family holiday tradition project. STBXW jokingly suggested a picture of the mantle minus her stocking. Ah, good one. We cut out pictures from magazines of cookies, toys, and she also suggested using the pic of the boys decorating the Christmas tree that I took last weekend, while we decorated without her, which I then emailed to the kindergarten teachers who both responded they loved it. Then we played with the boys, watched a Rudolph special, and she had me inspect her back for a possible bruise from where she bumped up against some furniture she was assembling for the rental, which led to some suggestive talk. We got the boys to bed and then went to bed ourselves in our separate rooms. We are ridiculous. She's coming over here in 2 hours so we can sort out December's bills. STBXW just left after we discussed the bills. Basically, she's agreed to pay half of the mortgage for December and then half the school tuition, and the rest of the utilities are mine. She's saying it's not fair for her to pay for the utilities as she's still living here at my request and she has to cover hers at the rental, plus she's been buying groceries for this house. She then stated that although her lawyer advised her that she didn't have to pay on the mortgage anymore, she didn't want to screw me, and will pay on that until I refinance it out of her name, minus the property taxes, sometime next year. I calmly replied, to wipe the self-righteousness off her face, that she had signed the recent refinance papers and it was still her responsibility whether she's here or not. Also, I said you can let your lawyer know I can make a few late payments on the mortgage and destroy your credit with no consequence to me as I already have the house and a new car. She said I would be doing that just to be vindictive, and I said it's an option. Also, my request has been to not tell the boys before Christmas or their birthday on January 1st, and she had not left previously because of this unresolved custody issue that she has delayed on, and now it was too late for this year. I find this so maddening. She's trying to turn this back on me with I know you're angry and you're trying to make it difficult for me. Like I'm the one in the wrong and being unreasonable. I get sucked in from the normality of last night to really facing that she's done while I'm talking with her. It's such an up and down. It's such a B trying to do this 180 while we are still interacting every day. And tonight, we're doing Christmas ornament making at the school with the kids with my mother, and she is still going. So, I stopped by STBXW's rental on 2 coming back from the gym as I know the sight of my sweaty body brings out an animalistic passion in her. Check earlier posts to verify non-accuracy of that statement, and to apologize for the credit threat I made. She was appreciative of the apology and wanted to talk about R and how she's been working with her therapist as she's been so upset that everyone now thinks she's run a scam on me and no one she speaks with understands why she's made this decision, except her 3-time married mother and one flaky friend in Los Angeles. Snippets of this conversation include, my therapist said I lacked insight into the feelings needed for a long-term relationship. Mind you, we've been married 11 years. When we had the kids, I thought we'd be together forever. Why would I move to your home state and away from all of my family and friends if I didn't love you and try to make this work? It's not been just the past 3 years of your behavior. I loved you and will always love you. I responded, you are saying 2 different things here and I have no idea what you are really saying. At this point we had to leave to get ready for ornament making with PTO at the kids' school with my mother. My mom said watching her go on and on with the other parents, accepting an invitation to a neighbor's Christmas party, and commenting how much she loved our new house wanted to make her slap her. Yesterday, we removed each other as beneficiaries of our life insurance policies, and then she comes home and makes dinner and straightens out the pantry from where I bought groceries that afternoon. This is the craziest situation I have ever been involved in. Last night, I took the kids to dinner while STBXW was Christmas shopping and got a haircut. My one boy had been missing STBXW during dinner and saying how much he wanted to see her as he hadn't all day. She left for the secret office before they got up for school. As I pull in the driveway, they see she's not there and he starts crying because he can see she's not home. My other boy says she stays away now because she hates us. She hates me and Daddy. I said no, she doesn't hate you. And he says, yes, she hates us because why would she always leave us? Mind you, one of my sons with behavioral and self-esteem problems that can barely pull it together on a good day. I put the kids to bed and she gets home about 9:30. I debated telling her what the boys said but then decide to, and she downplays it. Oh, son is always saying those kinds of things. When you are on work trips, they ask why do you have to go so much? ILL talk to them. Although I wanted to yell the point home, I calmly said no, this is different because they know I'm working and they now know you are choosing to remove yourself. I thought you may want to know. This has always been my concern. And then I left the guest bedroom. This, my friends, is what I have been trying to so much to avoid. I'm a grown man who didn't get together with STBXW until I was 31 and have been around the block a time or two in relationships and could handle this okay if it were just between me and her. But doing this to 5-year-old children, I find totally unacceptable. I think I'm fueled by rage at this point. So, I just called STBXW to ask her to pick up the boys from school as I have a plumber coming over and I can't. She says she talked to them about what they said last night and assured them that she would never leave them. I felt like shouting, but you are about to walk out on 50% of their lives. If that's not leaving, what is? But I didn't receive the first draft of the custody agreement Saturday. Last night, STBXW and I were discussing it, which led to a heated discussion at first, then some rational talk. Basically, she said I was obviously angry and hurt and going out of my way to make things difficult and to get back at her, which I agreed I was doing as I am finding it very hard to be agreeable. I said I was torn between cooperating fully and making her life a living hell for what she's put me through, and I haven't decided which way I'm going to proxt yet. She did a chronology year by year of our R and whether that year was a good one or a bad one, ending basically with I blew it the last 3 years. Rehash, etc. Interesting question was, would you want me to stay knowing how I feel now? Which I answered, not as is but if we work together. Which was shot down, so I asked, why ask these questions then? Another good one was, what do you want? I answered, I really don't know now as I can't see how this is going to work moving forward. I admit you are right, Katie. She is over, done, put a fork in it, and I have to accept this. So hard for me to let go though. I think so much of this is fear. Fear of the future, fear of not finding someone else, fear for the kids. I have to decide how to play this as she will make this very amicable if I go with it. Just doesn't seem fair to me though. A large part wants me to punish her for this somehow. I'm in IC, but my therapist canceled my appointment last week due to a death in her family. The nerve. And I'm traveling this week, but I have 2 sessions scheduled for next week with our family therapist. Me alone, and my IC. Yes, the blame game. And to hear it, it's been pretty much me apparently, which I have taken responsibility and apologized for the actions of the last 3 years. But those actions didn't arise in a vacuum, which I have also made clear, but funny how that doesn't resonate as much. Or how the underpinning I lacked the insight of what feelings were needed to sustain a long-term relationship kind of overrides my behavior in my book. Truthfully, if I knew I could find someone else in say 6 months, I'd cut bait ASAP, as I'm pretty much over this BS. However, the uncertainty keeping me holding on, I think. Just received a call from one of our neighbor friends inviting me to lunch next week to discuss her process of divorce and offer support as she heard from STBXW what's going on. I found this very encouraging as we socialize a lot with her and her husband and kids, so I may not be the pariah I thought I might be. Some might think, why can't OP and his STBXW pull it together for the custody agreement and get this thing moving? Well, there's a layer of complexity to this. The boys are biologically mine but not hers. STBXW could not produce viable eggs, so we went through 3 rounds of IVF using an anonymous egg donor, and so the kids are not technically hers. I had the boys and me legally DNA tested last week to confirm this in case of an off chance and received the results back wet. This is why she is not leaving physically until we come to an agreement, as this is a gray area according to the laws in this state. I have discussed this previously with my attorney and now have all the documentation to come up with a custody strategy. What I am going for is final authority on any joint decisions that can't be resolved, and she is not agreeing to this. I'm wondering if the lack of a biological tie is making this an easier decision to break apart the family. Previously, I have never thought this way, but now have had to reassess. It's also the main reason I'm so angry about this, as we didn't just happen to have kids but deliberately planned, created a family. My thinking is any issues we have between us should take second place to our commitment to the kids. I will be scheduling today for the attorney appointment next week. She said to me earlier, I want our family to take on a different form, meaning without me in the picture as much as possible, I'm assuming. She knows 50% is the most she can get here. With how we had kids, I never once thought we'd be here. It angers me so much, and I have to deal with her every day still. Boys came at 34.5 weeks, so they were a little early but are fine, which is a blessing. I'm having some difficulty with everything this evening, but have to get ready for a neighbor's Christmas party while the kids have an event at school. I just took them to dinner. I'm letting neighbors know STBXW is working and won't be able to attend. I went through all her email accounts, even ones I didn't know she used, as I had her password, account sheet, phone records, etc., high and low, and found nothing. I still search her overnight bag, occasionally after she goes to bed. This past week, I went through her briefcase and notebooks and found a phone number with directions. Turned out to be the Sears appliance outlet. Before I called the number, I was shaking and my heart was beating so hard I thought I might be giving myself a heart attack. I can't keep doing this at this point. Anytime she goes out, it's verified to me by somebody else, like, oh, I saw STBXW at the get-together last night. And everything checks out. When we had the talk, she said she would rather be alone than live and be with me anymore, so I'm taking that at face value. I think she had been thinking about this for a year or so, and we had a very heated argument on a Friday at the end of September over, get this, reseeding the lawn. Sunday, she drops this on me. I think that was the breaking point for her. My STBX mother-in-law wrote my mother a letter this week saying how we will need to cooperate as an entire family to keep all grandparents involved in milestones, etc. My mom and I decided she sounded pretty worried about getting cut off from the boys, as she should be. One of mine and STBXW's big issues has always been how her parents in California have visited us here in Ohio maybe 3 times in 6 years, but STBXW has been determined that our kids have a relationship with them, which entailed dragging 4 of us out there at least twice a year. We had another big argument in September over her insisting we go to this family Thanksgiving event in Ka, which would have cost us $4,000 for 4 days, and I was pretty set against it. One of the issues was her parents choose to go on cruises rather than come here, and I have been resentful about the cost and effort to coordinate 4 of us to see them. Mind you, the STBX father-in-law has 2 adult children he has not spoken to in 15 years. And all 4 of us went to Los Angeles for 2 weeks this past April, and in-laws saw one of the kids for a total of 1.5 hours. So, I'm looking at this like now kids will maybe see STBXW parents maybe 10 to 12 times over the next 12 years. If STBXW can afford airfare for 3 each year, she'll charge it, I guess. While they see mine at least once a week, I can't see much of a relationship ever really continuing. And also, with the DNA tests, I really don't care, as I do not consider them part of that family now anyway, which sounds awful, but almost all of them are a mess. Yesterday was my day with the boys, but STBXW was having to drop something over to the house. Boys made a special effort to get dressed nicely so when she was here, I suggested we all go to lunch, which we did. Then one wanted to go to Target as STBXW had promised to buy him a new pair of shoes, so she took him. She said to me, though, I've got things to do like install blinds and this is your day. I was like, look, they want to see you so you can choose accordingly. Later that afternoon, she told me she was going to a Christmas comedy show last night with one of our friends who we usually go see that with. I said no, I'm not okay with that. I'm not staying at home with the kids while you go out. As long as you live here, you will be home with the kids at night. She was angry and said you can't tell me what to do, but did agree to be back from her rental at bedtime. Boys and I had movie night and we both put them to bed. She retreated to the playroom for the rest of the night and told me as I was getting ready for bed that she wasn't ignoring me but didn't feel emotionally well. This morning, they are at church and have activities planned for the day. Well, the crap hit the fan last night. STBXW and I ended up talking pretty openly, and I saw the real person for the first time in a long time, and I thought maybe I could reach her about this if I could just reason this out. And with the sad realization, I haven't let go of her at all. I let her know I had an appointment with my lawyer this Thursday, and I asked if she still wanted to move this forward, which unfortunately led into a rehash and the "you'll never understand how I feel" and then on to discussion of the custody agreement. She asked what changes I wanted on the agreement draft, and I was non-specific, saying that there were points I needed to discuss with my attorney which I did not agree with, which led to her to start hounding me about details. I finally let her know that I wanted final decision-making authority for issues we could not agree upon. She got angry and was asking on what grounds. I replied that the family therapist did not see this as unreasonable based on her destabilizing actions of the last 90 days to our family and her not thinking this through on long-term implications. She started to get very angry at this point, and I added plus the fact that I confirmed with the DNA testing that I was the sole biological parent and I had to protect the boys, as she has proved when the going gets tough, she gets going. I said, "You'll never understand how I feel about what you are planning to do to the boys. This resulted in a 'that is unforgivable and I hate you right now' and storming off crying. I felt terrible for about 5 minutes, but then had to tell myself that I am not the one that put this in motion. I am not the one unwilling to work on our marriage. I am not the one walking out on 50% of my kids' lives. I am not the one risking their well-being. I am not the one breaking our family apart." This morning she didn't speak much to me and left right before 8 a.m. for an appointment she made late last night, which I'm assuming is either her lawyer or the IC. I'm frustrated with myself as I was planning to hold off on all this until after I met with the lawyer in Christmas, but I couldn't hold it back. I'm feeling like I kind of screwed this one up. We walked through the first draft of the custody agreement and what I wanted. I realized that we would need to arrange equally 50-50. Everything we have planned, how we interact, do things with the kids, what we have taught them, has always been equal. I have school placement custody and there are some tweaks, but we should be able to hammer this out soon. I realized my need to control the kids are not going to fly if it went to court, but school placement would prevent her from moving back to Ka with them. All subject to change if circumstances change and the court can be petitioned. We backburnered any D process with custody, and the assets being done first and D to be addressed later. STBXW and I finalized a verbal agreement this week on assets, and my lawyer will draw that up. After my meeting, I asked her to come over so we can discuss details, changes. She's agreeable to most. Also, she's willing to be extremely flexible with the schedules due to my travel, and also since the boys enjoy time with all 4 of us together. We will all be living within walking distance, and the boys are used to us parenting in shifts anyway. I think we can work this out so we can really minimize the impact on them. For now anyway. Of course, I worry about 5 years from now, but I can't focus on that at present. We then discussed, again, the R, and it really boils down that I have not made her feel good about herself anymore, and she began crying. I was thinking later last night that the reality is she is a good person, an excellent parent, very considerate and thoughtful to others, has great qualities. The last 5 years our life exploded into chaos, and I expected her to make order of that since she was at home, and I overlooked, underappreciated the fact that she has her own pressures from working full-time, etc. She's a very sensitive, non-confrontational person with self-esteem issues, and I'm a steamroller. Apparently, our connection was not strong enough to bridge these issues. I've wanted to vilify her as the bad guy since she made a unilateral decision on this, but I do see where she is coming from. Our situation is maybe different from others here, as we didn't have the affairs, the lying, the substance abuse, etc. I realize I've got to move this forward quickly, as much as I do not want to before we hurt each other any further. Who knows how she or I will feel 6 months from now? I can't control that. So, I should have the revisions back from my lawyer end of next week or beginning of the week after. We spent the morning together as one son had a presentation for his kindergarten class, and we both volunteered to help with his class Christmas party. We are going back this afternoon to volunteer for our other son's party. Interesting change here today since I made this decision to let this go yesterday. We spent the morning together in one son's class and she invited me to get together for lunch before our other son's party and go together to the school. I steered clear of any R talk, kept it light, etc. on the way back to her rental. She said today was great and the most fun she's had since this happened. I said, you know we are capable of that, and just dropped it, and she said to come over later to use the fax machine for my expense report. She needs to be on her own and make decisions and come to her own conclusions. What that entails, I don't know, but I'm not going to be able to use my sheer will to make anything happen. And maybe I won't want to later on. I don't know if she's the damage or just unwilling to acknowledge it. She knows we work very well together as parents, but I don't know if that's enough for her. I need to keep the boy's best interest in mind and mine next. Being amiable and upbeat about this feels better than beating my head against a wall. Hopefully, I will still have this feeling tomorrow. Going up to my parents to wrap presents for the boys today and bring the Santa ones home as well. Last night, STBXW and I worked out all the logistics on this, and we're doing it all together except for a family Christmas Eve with my sister, niece during that day, but we'll do church as a family for Eve services and Christmas Day as the boys would want that. STBXW even asked if I wanted to invite my parents over for Christmas Day dinner. Not sure about that because that has the potential to go south pretty fast. We got through Christmas fine. We did my side of the family event, minus STBXW, on Christmas Eve. Went to church where she met us. And went back home together to get the boys ready for Santa's arrival. Only one relationship discussion, which ended with me saying I am amazed at how 100% checked out you are, but we'll work this together for the kids. Christmas Day went fine with presents in the morning, late lunch, and we took the boys to a movie that afternoon. Spent last night putting together electronics together after kids went to bed. I'm off this week as are the kids, and we've been sleeted, snowed in all day. STBXW came over for lunch and will be back for dinner. I am calling another divorce attorney on a referral for a second opinion just to cover all bases. My comment, Part 3 coming very soon. Let me take a quick break, and Part 3 will arrive in your feed.